Honor roll kid Marcus grabs a starry necklace to heal his family's scars, until sirens scream, "Robber!" and a dirty cop drags him into a precinct of lies. Cuffed in shadows, he uncovers the real Crook's Diamond Trail, a van chased through lightning hell. FBI cavalry crashes in, but betrayal's bullet flies true. Who bleeds for justice? Get ready for a story that'll pull you in so deep, you won't be able to walk away. This is not just a tale, it's an experience you'll feel. So before we begin, hit subscribe to Black Battles, where every story hits harder than truth itself. The fluorescent lights of Evergreen Plaza hummed like a distant swarm of bees, casting a sterile glow over the labyrinth of shops that sprawled across the heart of suburban Seattle. It was a Saturday afternoon in late spring, the kind where the sun filtered through the massive skylights in lazy shafts, warming the tiled floors and drawing families into the mall's embrace. Laughter bubbled from the food court, where teenagers clustered around overflowing trays of fries and sodas, their voices a carefree symphony against the backdrop of upbeat pop music piping from hidden speakers. For Marcus Hale, though, the mall was more than a weekend refuge. It was a battlefield of small victories, a place where he could stitch together fragments of normalcy for the family that grief had nearly unraveled. At 16, Marcus carried himself with the quiet assurance of someone who had learned to navigate the world one careful step at a time. Tall and lean, with skin the color of polished mahogany and eyes that held the depth of unspoken stories, he moved through the crowds with his backpack slung low over one shoulder. Inside it nestled his most prized possessions, a dog-eared copy of The Alchemist, a laptop etched with Stanford stickers from the acceptance letter that had arrived just weeks ago, and a crumpled photo of his mother, Elena, beaming from a hospital bed on the day Emily was born. Elena had been the glue, the one who baked cinnamon rolls at midnight and whispered dreams of the future into her children's ears. 2 years ago, cancer had stolen her away, leaving behind a void that echoed in every quiet moment. Marcus had stepped into the breach without complaint, becoming father, brother, and shield all in one. Today, that meant finding the perfect birthday gift for Emily's 13th. A milestone Elena would have marked with balloons and a cake towering 3 layers high. He paused at the window of Serendipity Jewels, a quaint boutique tucked between a bookstore and a pretzel stand. The display case shimmered with delicate chains and pendants, but one piece caught his eye immediately. A silver necklace with a tiny starburst pendant, its edges catching the light like captured fireflies. Emily had always loved the stars. On clear nights, she'd drag Marcus to the backyard, pointing out constellations while Elena traced their shapes on faded star maps. "That's Orion," their mother would say, her voice soft as velvet. "The hunter who never gives up." Marcus could almost hear her now, urging him onward. He pushed through the glass door, the chime tinkling like a secret shared. The shop was a cozy nook of velvet-lined shelves and soft jazz drifting from a corner speaker. Behind the counter stood Sophia Grant, a woman in her mid-40s with warm brown curls pinned back and a name tag that read, "Manager," in elegant script. Her smile was genuine, the kind that crinkled the corners of her eyes and made strangers feel seen. "Afternoon, young man. Looking for something special?" she asked, her voice carrying the faint lilt of a southern accent, a remnant of her Georgia roots. Marcus nodded, sliding the backpack off his shoulder and setting it on the floor with a soft thud. "Yeah, for my sister's birthday. She's turning 13 tomorrow. I want something. Simple but meaningful." He gestured toward the necklace, his fingers hovering as if afraid to disturb its perfection. Sophia unlocked the case with a practiced flick, laying the piece on a black cloth. Up close, the starburst gleamed, its facets whispering promises of brighter days. "This one's a favorite," she said, turning it in the light. "Sterling silver, handcrafted by a local artist. Symbolizes hope, new beginnings. Perfect for a girl on the cusp of everything." Marcus traced the pendant with his fingertip, imagining Emily's face lighting up, the way her dark braids would swing as she flung her arms around him. The hug that might just chase away the shadows of their mother's absence. "How much?" he asked, pulling out his debit card, the one Nicholas had insisted he carry for emergencies. His father, Nicholas Hale, was a man of precision and quiet strength, the FBI deputy director whose days blurred into nights of classified files and urgent calls. He worked long hours chasing shadows in the corridors of power, but his texts were lifelines. Proud of you, son. Remember the stars guide true. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket just then, the screen lighting up with exactly that, running late tonight. Pizza for dinner? Love, Dad. A small smile tugged at his lips. Nicholas was trying in his way to fill the gaps. $48, Sophia replied, ringing it up on the register. The machine beeped approvingly, and she slipped the necklace into a velvet box, tying it with a satin ribbon. Marcus handed over the card, watching the transaction clear with a mix of relief and anticipation. She's lucky to have a brother like you, Sophia said, sliding the box across the counter. Family's the real treasure, isn't it? Lost mine to the same thief. Time slips away if you don't hold on tight. Her eyes softened, a shared understanding passing between them like a silent pact. Marcus pocketed the receipt, folding it carefully into his wallet. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, it is. He lingered for a moment, the weight of her words settling like dew on his heart. Emily's birthday wasn't just a celebration. It was a defiance, a way to honor Elena by weaving joy from the threads of loss. As he turned to leave, the world shattered. A piercing alarm wailed from 2 stores down, the jewelry vault at Prestige Gems, its doors flung wide in the sudden frenzy. Shoppers froze, then scattered like startled birds, purses clutched and children yanked close. Evacuate. Armed robbery. A voice boomed over the intercom, laced with urgency. Security guard Tyler Voss burst from a side door, his uniform crisp but his face pale. Radio crackling at his hip. Suspect fleeing north exit. Male, early 20s, dark hoodie, possibly armed. All units converge. Voss's eyes swept the corridor, wild and unseeing, landing on Marcus as he stepped into the flow of the exodus. The backpack, the hoodie, vague shadows in the chaos painted a damning silhouette. Marcus felt the air thicken, his instincts screaming retreat, but the crowd surged around him, a human tide pulling him toward the parking lot. Heart hammering. He quickened his pace, the velvet box a fragile anchor in his pocket. Emily's text pinged again. Can't wait for tomorrow, Marcus. Stars and cake? He typed a hasty reply. You got it, sis. Love you. But his thumb froze mid-send as Voss's radio spat coordinates. Suspect sighted, Lot C. Footsteps pounded behind him, heavy and relentless. Marcus glanced back, catching the guard's narrowed gaze, the hand reaching for his baton. The mall's cheerful hum twisted into a nightmare's growl, sirens wailing in the distance like hounds on the scent. He raised his hands instinctively, palms out, the universal plea his mother had drilled into him since he could walk. Visible, compliant, alive. But in that split second, as the first patrol car screeched into view, Marcus wondered if the stars Elena loved could pierce the gathering storm, or if they would merely witness another boy's light dimming in the shadows. Part 2. Hands up. Heart down, the parking lot of Evergreen Plaza stretched out like a vast, unforgiving sea of asphalt, shimmering under the relentless afternoon sun. Heat waves danced off the hoods of parked cars, turning the air into a thick, oppressive haze that clung to Marcus Hale's skin like an unwanted shroud. He stepped out from the mall's cool embrace, the automatic doors whooshing shut behind him with a finality that felt oddly prophetic. In his hand, the shopping bag swung lightly. Its contents, a velvet box cradling the silver starburst necklace, serving as a fragile talisman against the uncertainties that had shadowed his life since Elena's passing. The weight of it grounded him, a tangible reminder of tomorrow's promise. Emily's birthday, a day to chase away the ghosts with laughter and cake. His phone vibrated softly in his pocket, pulling him from his thoughts. He fished it out, the screen blooming with Emily's message. Can't wait, big bro. Stars on the cake, please. A soft smile tugged at the corners of his mouth, the kind that reached his eyes and softened the perpetual vigilance he wore like armor. You got it, sis. Gonna be epic, he typed back, his thumb quick and sure. At 13, Emily was all boundless energy and unfiltered joy, a spark that Marcus guarded fiercely, knowing how easily grief could snuff it out, but the moment shattered like fragile glass under a boot heel. A barked command sliced through the humid air, sharp and unyielding. Stop right there. Marcus froze mid-step, his heart slamming into overdrive as if an invisible tripwire had just snapped taut. From the corner of his eye, he saw them. 2 patrol officers charging across the lot, their boots pounding the pavement in sync with the rising thunder of his pulse. The lead officer, Derek Lang, was a wall of authority in starched blue, his badge catching the sunlight like a mocking beacon of false promises. Broad-shouldered and square-jawed, with eyes narrowed to slits of suspicion, Lang moved with the predatory grace of a man who thrived on control. Trailing a step behind was his partner, Kyle Morrow, slimmer and younger, his face a mask of professional detachment, cracked by a flicker of unease in his hazel eyes. Morrow's hand hovered near his radio, as if debating whether to call for backup or common sense. Marcus's mind raced back to Elena's lessons, etched into his soul during long evenings when Nicholas was buried in case files. You keep your hands visible, baby. Always yes, sir. Breathe slow, they smell fear. He raised his arms slowly, palms open and empty, the shopping bag dangling innocently from his fingers like a white flag of surrender. The necklace box inside shifted slightly, a secret heartbeat against his thigh. "Officer," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor spidering through his limbs. "I think you've got the wrong guy. I was just—" The words died as Lang closed the distance in a blur, his gloved hand clamping onto Marcus's shoulder like Avis. Time fractured into shards. The world tilted as Lang spun him around, slamming his chest against the scalding hood of a nearby SUV. The metal burned through his thin hoodie, searing his skin, and a sharp jolt of pain radiated from his ribs where they met the unyielding edge. Air whooshed from his lungs in a gasp, but he bit it back, forcing his body to go limp, compliant. "Empty your pockets now." Lang's growl was low and guttural, laced with the casual menace of routine dominance. Marcus complied without protest, his free hand fumbling into his jeans, emerging with keys that jangled like nervous laughter, a worn leather wallet, and his phone, still glowing with Emily's text. He placed them on the hood one by one, each item a small surrender. Lang snatched them up, rifling through the wallet with rough efficiency. School ID from Evergreen High, honor roll sticker peeling at the edges, a faded photo of the family, Elena in the center, arms around Marcus and a toddler Emily, Nicholas's proud grin in the background. For a split second, Lang's fingers paused on the photo, but his expression hardened, discarding it like yesterday's news. Then came the shopping bag. He yanked it open, dumping the velvet box onto the hood with a thud. The necklace split out, its chain coiling like a silver serpent. "Stolen goods?" Lang sneered, his voice dripping with insinuation as he pocketed the receipt Marcus had so carefully folded away. With a flick of his wrist, he tore it to shreds, the confetti of paper fluttering to the asphalt like discarded dreams. From the mall doors, a figure burst forth, Sophia Grant, her curls disheveled, tablet clutched in white-knuckled hands. She sprinted across the lot, heels clicking urgently against the pavement. "Wait, officers, please, you've got it all wrong." Breathless, she thrust the tablet forward, its screen alive with the transaction log. Timestamp 2:17 p.m. Marcus Hale, 48 Dawero, Serendipity Jewels. "I sold it to him myself. He's a good kid, comes in every month for little things for his sister." Her voice cracked on the last word, eyes pleading as she glanced at Marcus, pinned and panting against the SUV. Lang's head snapped toward her, his glare a weapon sharper than any baton. "Back off, ma'am. This eye's a procedure. Suspect matches the description. Dark hoodie, young male, right after the alarm." His hand twitched toward his holster, fingers brushing the leather strap in a silent threat. Sophia faltered, stepping back as if slapped, her tablet lowering like a shield withdrawn. "But the footage, I can pull it up." The crowd was swelling now, a ripple of onlookers drawn from the mall's edges like moths to a flame. Smartphones emerged from pockets, lenses glinting as they captured the scene in cold, digital detachment. Whispers slithered through the throng. "Is that the robber?" Kid looked scared. "Film it, just in case." A chorus of judgment and voyeurism that twisted Marcus's gut. He caught a glimpse of his backpack, spilt open in the scuffle, its contents splaying across the hood. Textbooks. The Stanford letter creased from hopeful rereads. and a small flash drive tumbling free like a fallen star. It held Emily's birthday video, a montage of beach days and stargazing, Elena's laughter woven through the frames like a golden thread. To Marcus, it was a lifeline of love. To Lang, rifling through the debris, it screamed contraband, potential evidence of a digital trail. Morrow shifted uncomfortably, his boots scuffing the asphalt. He leaned in closer to Lang, voice a murmur meant for his partner alone but carried on the breeze. "Derek, hold up. The kid's ID say honor student, debate captain. And that acceptance letter, Stanford, doesn't scream career criminal." Lang's response was a sharp twist of Marcus's arm behind his back, the joint screaming in protest as cold steel cuffs snapped shut. The click echoed like a gavel's fall, cracking something deep within Marcus's resolve, a fracture line running from his ribs to the hollow ache where his mother's voice used to steady him. Pain bloomed hot and fierce, but he swallowed it down, eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun dipped toward evening, painting the sky in hues of defiant orange. Dragged toward the cruiser, Marcus's sneakers scraped against the grit-strewn lot, each step a reluctant march toward the unknown. The crowd parted like a biblical sea, phone still trained on him, immortalizing his humiliation in pixels. Lang shoved him against the rear door, the metal biting into his shoulder. "In you go, thief. We'll sort this at the precinct." As the door yawned open, a chill wind cut through the heat, carrying the faint scent of rain on the way. Marcus's mind raced, fragments of Dad's last text looping like a mantra. "Stay sharp, son. The world's not always fair, but you're stronger, but how?" The flash drive lay abandoned on the hood, glinting mockingly in the fading light. Emily's face flashed in his thoughts, her trusting eyes the way she'd cling to him after nightmares. He couldn't let this eclipse her day, couldn't let fear steal another piece of their fragile world. As the cruiser door slammed shut, sealing him in shadows, Marcus pressed his forehead against the window, watching Sophia's retreating figure blur with unshed tears. The engine roared to life, sirens slicing the air like accusations. In that moment, suspended between innocence and accusation, Marcus clung to one unyielding truth. Survival wasn't just enduring, it was fighting for the light, one heartbeat at a time. Part 3. Caged Echoes. The cruiser lurched to a halt outside Central Precinct, tires crunching over gravel like teeth grinding in frustration. Marcus Hale's world had narrowed to the cage of the back seat, the partition window a smeared barrier between his unraveling composure and the indifferent night beyond. Streetlights cast elongated shadows through the bars on the door, turning the parking lot into a grid of iron-laced illusions. Officer Derek Lang killed the engine with a twist of the key, the sudden silence amplifying the rasp of Marcus's breaths, shallow, measured, a rhythm Elena had taught him to mimic during thunderstorms. In through the nose, out through the mouth. "Steady, my star. You're unbreakable." But tonight, under the weight of steel cuffs biting into his wrists, Marcus felt anything but. The door swung open, and Lang's hand clamped onto his arm again, hauling him out with the efficiency of a man unloading cargo. "Move it, kid." Processing waits for no one. The precinct lobby assaulted the senses. A cocktail of burnt coffee, industrial cleaner, and the faint metallic tang of fear sweat from those who'd passed through before. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead, their harsh white light stripping away any pretense of mercy, illuminating scuffed linoleum floors and bulletin boards plastered with faded wanted posters. Officers milled about like ghosts in blue, their radios crackling with disjointed urgency. Unit 7, domestic on Elm, 10 to 4. Marcus kept his eyes down, feet shuffling in the mandated shuffle, the shopping bag long confiscated, and the velvet box's contents scattered like omens. Morrow trailed behind, his earlier hesitation now buried under layers of protocol. Though Marcus caught the man's sidelong glance, a flicker of something human, perhaps regret, they marched him to booking, where a desk sergeant with a mustache like steel wool stamped forms without looking up. Fingerprints next, inky rollers pressing his digits against a scanner. Each click a digital brand on his record, temporary or not. Hale Marcus, age 16. Charge, suspected theft and evading. The words landed like stones in still water rippling through him. He wanted to protest, to spill the truth about Emily's birthday, the necklace's gleam, Sophia's testimony, but Lang's glare pinned his tongue. Instead, he murmured, "Yes, sir," the phrase a bitter echo of his mother's mantra. Escorted down a corridor that smelled of regret, damp concrete and echoes of muffled sobs, they reached the holding cells. Lang uncuffed him with a rough yank, shoving Marcus into the 8x10 box of cinder block and despair. The door clanged shut, the lock engaging with a solenoid's indifferent whir. Alone finally, Marcus sank onto the metal bench, its cold seeping through his hoodie like an accusation. His wrists throbbed, red welts rising where the cuffs had chafed. But it was the deeper ache that clawed at him, the humiliation replaying in relentless flashes. The crowd's averted eyes, phones capturing his fall like a viral spectacle, Sophia's defeated slump as she retreated, tablet limp in her hands, and the necklace, crushed under Lang's boot, its starburst pendant twisted into ruin, a symbol of the joy he'd fought to salvage now ground to dust. He rubbed his arms, chasing phantom warmth, and let his gaze drift. The cell was a study in institutional barrenness. A stainless sink toilet combo bolted to the wall, a threadbare blanket folded on the bench and high on the opposite side, a one-way mirror that stared back like a judgmental eye. Beyond it, through a narrow slot in the door, he glimpsed the evidence table in the adjoining room, cluttered with baggies of confiscated items. There, amid the detritus, glinted his flash drive, a sleek black thumb of salvation, tumbled from his backpack like a seed cast into barren soil. It held more than Emily's birthday video, that tender collage of beach bonfires and Elena's off-key lullabies. Buried in its code was Nicholas's hidden app, a parental safeguard turned potential lifeline, a tracker that could ping his father's secure line, whispering coordinates like a digital SOS, heart pounding anew. Marcus leaned forward, straining against the door's frame. Nicholas's stories flooded back, vivid as yesterday's game nights. The FBI deputy director, home late with takeout and tired eyes, would transform their kitchen table into a covert ops theater. Locks aren't barriers, son. They're puzzles, he'd say, demonstrating with a butter knife and a padlock, his fingers deft from years dismantling threats in shadowed alleys. Emily giggling from her perch on the counter, Elena watching with that soft smile, her hand on Marcus's shoulder. Your dad's a hero, but heroes need their team. Those nights weren't just play. They were survival lessons wrapped in love, preparing Marcus for a world that too often saw his skin before his soul. Desperation sparked now, a fragile flame. If he could reach the door's slot, slip a note, or even rattle the bars in code, 3 short, 2 long, their family's signal for trouble. But the guard outside paced, boots thudding like a metronome of denial. A sputter from the guard's radio cut the tension. Update from mall security, real suspect ID'd, white male, mid-20s, red jacket. Voss botched the description. Stand down on the Hale kid. Hope surged, hot and electric, flooding Marcus's veins. He rose, pressing against the door. Hey, did you hear that? That's me. They got the wrong guy. The guard glanced over, face impassive, but before he could respond, the corridor erupted. Lang stormed in like a thunderhead, his face twisted in fury, slamming the booking room door so hard the walls vibrated. Shut it down. No releases till I say. Kid's still a person of interest. Hoodie matches, bag had the goods. He jabbed a finger toward the evidence table, pocketing Marcus's phone with a proprietary swipe. The radio crackled again, but Lang snatched it from the guard, hissing into it. Affirmative, but hold the all clear. Protocol. Marcus's plea died in his throat, the hope curdling to dread as Lang's eyes locked on him through the slot. Cold. Yielding, laced with something darker than duty. What are you hiding? The question burned unspoken, but Marcus felt it, a chill slithering down his spine. Night had fallen fully now, the precinct's windows black mirrors reflecting his isolation. Lang's pocket, the phone lit up silently. Dad calling, Nicholas probably pacing his office, the weight of unsolved cases forgotten in the grip of paternal instinct. Unanswered, the vibration hummed against fabric, a muffled heartbeat lost in the void. Slumping back onto the bench, Marcus drew his knees to his chest, the cell's chill burrowing deeper. Tears came unbidden, carving hot paths down his cheeks, silent at first, then racking sobs that shook his frame. "Emily," he whispered to the blinking camera, its red eye unblinking witness to his fracture. "I'm sorry, sis. I promised Mom I'd keep us whole." The weight of their family crashed over him. The empty chair at dinner, Elena's recipes gathering dust, Nicholas's rare hugs squeezed between deadlines. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a theft of time, of trust, threatening to bury them under the rubble of one man's bias. In the shadows, Marcus curled tighter, the flash drive's distant gleam a mocking star. Survival demanded more than lessons now. It required a spark to ignite the dark, before the cage claimed the boy who dreamed of code and constellations. Dawn's first tentative fingers clawed through the barred windows of Central Precinct, painting the holding cell in muted grays and golds that did little to dispel the night's lingering chill. Marcus Hale had not slept. The bench had become his reluctant bed, its unyielding metal imprinting ridges into his back, like accusations etched in steel. His eyes, heavy-lidded and rimmed with exhaustion, traced the slow creep of light across the floor, each inch a mocking reminder of time slipping away from Emily's birthday. The flash drive's gleam from the evidence table had haunted his fitful dozes, a distant beacon he couldn't reach, while the camera's red eye blinked on, indifferent to his whispered pleas. "Just one call," he'd murmured to the empty air at midnight, imagining Nicholas's voice cutting through the static. "Hold on, son. I'm coming." But the phone in Lang's pocket stayed silent, its unanswered vibrations a ghost in the machine. Footsteps echoed down the corridor, soft, hesitant, unlike the authoritative stomp of patrols. The cell door's slot rasped open, and a styrofoam cup of water nudged through, followed by a quiet, "Drink this, kid. You look like hell." Marcus blinked, propping himself up as Officer Kyle Morrow's face appeared in the slot, shadowed by the brim of his cap. Morrow's eyes darted left and right, the hall's fluorescent hum underscoring his tension. At 28, Morrow was the precinct's reluctant newcomer, transferred from a quieter suburb where paperwork outnumbered pursuits. His clean-shaven jaw clenched now, betraying the war between duty and decency raging beneath his uniform. He wasn't like Lang, no swagger, no sneer. Just a man who'd signed up to protect, only to watch the badge twist into something sharper. Marcus took the cup, the tepid water a small mercy against his parched throat. "Thanks," he rasped, voice rough from unshed tears. "Any word?" The radio said they ID'd the real guy. Morrow glanced away, rubbing the back of his neck as if the gesture could scrub away his complicity. "Yeah, about that. Mall cams came through overnight, crystal clear. You were at checkout when the vault got hit. Timestamp matches Sophia's log to the second. Robber's a ghost in a red jacket, long gone northbound." Relief flickered in Marcus's chest, fragile as a moth's wing, but Morrow's next words snuffed it. "Lang's stonewalling it. Told the sergeant you're still a flight risk. Says your backpack had suspicious tech. Pushing to hold you another 24. Desk jockeys upstairs are buying it for now." Marcus's stomach twisted, a cold knot of dread coiling tighter. "Why? I didn't do anything." "Just a gift for my sister." His voice trailed off, the velvet box's ruin flashing in his mind, the starburst pendant bent and lifeless, Emily's joy crushed before it could bloom. Morrow leaned closer, his whisper a hushed torrent that barely crested the slot's edge. "Listen, kid, Derek's off, way off. I saw him last night after the shift change. Slipped into the evidence locker like he owned it. Pocketed a diamond clip from the heist hall, emerald cut tagged with the vault's inventory number. It's not his first dance. Whispers in the break room say he's been fencing hot pieces for months, using collars like you as cover." The revelation hit Marcus like a plunge into icy waters, stealing his breath. Lang, the man who'd slammed him against the SUV, who'd shredded his receipt with casual cruelty, wasn't just biased, he was the criminal, a wolf cloaked in blue, turning the badge into a shield for his shadows. Suspense thickened the air, heavy as the scent of stale coffee wafting from the hall. Marcus's mind whirled, piecing together fragments. Lang's proprietary swipe of the phone, the too quick dismissal of Sophia's tablet, the way his eyes had lingered on the flash drive with predatory gleam. "He's using me," Marcus breathed, horror dawning. "To bury the real trail." Morrow nodded grimly, his face etched deeper with conflict, the lines around his eyes like cracks in resolve. Smart kid. But keep that quiet. He's got ears everywhere. Here, with a sleight of hand born of locker room pranks, Morrow palmed the flash drive from his pocket, the black sliver sliding through the slot like contraband contrition. Snagged it from the table. Your phone synced angles before he grabbed it. Might catch him in the frame, fiddling with evidence. Hide it. Use it if you can. Marcus's fingers closed around the drive, its cool surface a jolt of possibility amid the despair. But possibility carried peril. Buried in its circuits lurked Nicholas's hidden app, a digital tether installed during one of their late-night coding sessions. For emergencies only, Dad had said, his voice grave over the glow of screens, fingers flying across keys to embed the tracker. It would ping Nicholas's secure line with GPS whispers, a silent alarm racing through FBI channels. Activating it now, though, risked a trace. Lang's patrols prowled the hall like a wolf scenting blood, radio clipped to his belt, always one wrong noise from bursting in. Marcus's heart hammered, a drumbeat of indecision. Flashbacks flooded unbidden. Elena's final hospital night, the room awash in beeping monitors and the sharp tang of antiseptic. She'd been frail then, skin translucent as paper, but her grip on his hand fierce. Protect Emily, Marcus. Be the light she follows. He'd nodded, throat tight, as Nicholas stood vigil at the foot of the bed, his weary eyes meeting Marcus's in a vow unspoken. We'll rise above this pain together, as a family. That promise had anchored them through funerals and firsts without her, the empty Mother's Day cards, the stargazing that now felt like chasing ghosts. Betraying it now, letting Lang's corruption drag them deeper, was unthinkable. With trembling hands, Marcus palmed the drive, slipping it into the cushioned sole of his sneaker, the fabric yielding like a secret shared. It nestled there, a hidden heart pulsing with potential. Videos of laughter, code for rescue, threads of truth woven tight. "Why help me?" he asked Morrow, voice laced with wary gratitude. The officer's shoulders sagged, a knight unburdening his armor. "Because I got a nephew your age. Dreams big like you. If it was him out there." He trailed off, the what-if hanging heavy. "Just stay alive till morning. I'll nudge the sergeant again." Morrow's slot snapped shut, his footsteps fading into the dawn's murmur, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of whispers. But solitude shattered like fragile ice. The cell door rattled, keys jangling in prelude to intrusion. Lang burst in, his frame filling the threshold like a storm front. Eyes bloodshot from whatever shadows he'd chased through the night. The diamond clip's absence burned in Marcus's mind, a phantom bulge in Lang's pocket beside the pilfered phone. "Rise and shine, Hale. Time for your statement." His voice was oil over gravel, laced with false joviality that didn't reach his gaze. Cold, calculating, sniffing for weakness. He uncuffed Marcus roughly, the steel clicking shut anew, yanking him toward the interrogation room down the hall. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting elongated shadows that danced like accomplices. Marcus stumbled forward, the drive a secret fire in his shoe. Each step a gamble on the thin line between revelation and ruin. The door to the small, windowless room locked with a finality that echoed like a tomb's seal. The table bolted to the floor, a stage for coerced confessions. Lang loomed across from him, notepad in hand, but his pen hovered idle, eyes boring into Marcus like drills seeking fracture points. "Start talking, kid. Where'd you fence the rest? Don't make this harder." The air thickened with threat. Unspoken promises of escalation if truth dared surface. Marcus met his stare, heart a wild bird battering its cage. The tracker's activation a button press away, salvation or snare. In that suspended breath as Lang leaned in closer, breath hot with coffee and malice, Marcus wondered, could whispers of corruption pierce this iron veil before the wolf devoured the lamb whole? Adrenaline ignited in Marcus Hale's veins like a live wire, sparking every nerve as Officer Derek Lang's iron grip propelled him down the precinct's back corridor. The interrogation room's door had barely clicked shut behind them when Lang's facade cracked, his voice dropping to a venomous hiss that slithered through the dim hum of flickering emergency lights. "Keep walking, kid. One wrong move and this ends messy." The air down here was thicker, laced with the oily tang of motor exhaust and the metallic bite of rusted pipes. The precinct's underbelly pulsing with muffled radios and the distant drip of a leak somewhere in the shadows. Marcus's mind reeled from Morrow's whispers. Lang's corruption, the pilfered diamond clip, the badge twisted into a noose around his own neck. Now, with cuffs biting fresh welts into his wrists, Marcus felt the noose tightening. Lang's free hand dipping into his jacket to reveal the cold gleam of a concealed pistol, its barrel nudging insistently against Marcus's ribs. "You're my ticket out," Lang growled, his breath hot and ragged against Marcus's ear as they shoved through a heavy steel door into the dimly lit garage. "Blame you for the heist, say you bolted with the score and I walk clean. Who are they gonna believe? A street rat or the cop who caught him?" The words landed like blows, each one fracturing the fragile hope Marcus had clung to through the night. His blood ran cold, a glacial rush that numbed his fingers even as his heart thundered a frantic protest. In Lang's other pocket, the velvet box bulged mockingly. A trophy from the shattered necklace, its starburst pendant now a perverse talisman of the innocence Lang sought to bury. Tires screeched faintly in the distance, echoing off the concrete pillars like a siren's warning. Backup arriving, or perhaps the jaws of Lang's escape closing in. The garage was a cavern of hulking shadows. Patrol cars hunkered in bays like sleeping beasts, their hoods still warm from the night's patrols. Lang scanned the gloom, his eyes wild with the cornered animal's gleam, before zeroing in on an unmarked van at the far end, dented fenders, tinted windows, the kind of vehicle that blended into the city's undercurrents. He yanked Marcus toward it, the pistol's pressure a constant threat, unyielding as the rain that had begun to patter against the overhead vents. Marcus's sneakers scuffed the oil-slicked floor, each step a calculation in survival. Feign the broken boy, by seconds, summon the lessons Elena had woven into his bones. Eyes forward, hands steady. Fear's a chain, break it. But fear clawed deep now. Visions of Emily flickering like a faulty bulb, her 13th birthday unraveling without him. Cake candles guttering in an empty room. Nicholas's calls going to voicemail in this mechanical tomb. His fingers, bound but nimble from years of keyboard marathons and puzzle locks with Dad, brushed the edge of his sneaker where the flash drive hid. A desperate twist of his ankle, masked as a stumble, freed it into his palm. Cool plastic against sweat-slick skin. Heart slamming like a war drum, Marcus thumbed the activation sequence, the tracker's silent pulse awakening under his touch. No chime, no glow. Just an invisible beacon lancing through the ether toward Nicholas's secure line. Coordinates whispering like a prayer, "Here now, Father." "Find me." The app's code, etched in those kitchen table nights, was flawless, untraceable to outsiders, but a flare to the FBI's watchful eyes. Would it reach in time? Sirens wailed closer now, threading through the rain's rising tattoo, a symphony of pursuit that set Lang's jaw clenching. "Damn leaks," he muttered, shoving Marcus into the van's rear cargo area, the door slamming with a hollow boom that sealed them in twilight. The engine roared to life, a guttural beast awakening, and Lang gunned it out of the garage, tires spitting gravel as they burst into the storm-lashed streets. Rain sheeted the windshield in relentless waves, the wipers slashing futile arcs while thunder grumbled overhead like an impatient god. Marcus sprawled on the van's bare metal floor, feigning a huddled compliance, his body curled to shield the drive while his eyes darted like a cornered fox's, scanning for weakness in the dim confines. Loose panel in the sidewall, rattling with each pothole, a forgotten tire iron wedged under the front seat just out of reach. The partition window between cargo and cab, smeared but intact. "Why me?" he whispered, lacing his voice with feigned tremor, the quiver not entirely acted, fear's honest edge sharpening the ploy to buy time. Lang's laugh barked from the driver's seat, bitter and jagged, slicing through the downpour's roar. "Why you? Kid, you fit the part. Dark hoodie, wrong place, easy mark for a story that sticks. World's full of 'em. One more won't raise eyebrows." The van swerved into a narrow alley, headlights carving fleeting tunnels through the gloom, puddles exploding under the tires like startled breaths. Streetlights blurred into streaks of sodium gold, illuminating graffiti-scarred walls and overflowing dumpsters, the city's forgotten veins. perfect for vanishing. Marcus's mind raced parallel to the engine's whine, Emily's face anchoring him amid the chaos, her trusting smile on stargazing nights, braids swinging as she chased fireflies, Elena's echo in her laughter. For her, he thought, the drive's warmth in his fist a vow. Nicholas's lessons layered over Elena's. Observe, adapt. The flaw's always there, find it. And there it was. Glinting in a jolt of lightning, the back door's latch, jury-rigged from hasty repairs, its pin bent and loose, wobbling with the van's lurch over a grate. Thunder masked the first creak as Marcus shifted, coiling like a spring wound too tight. The van hit a deep pothole, suspension groaning in protest, and he lunged, bound hands yanking the latch with all the desperation of a boy fighting for tomorrow. The door flew open with a screech of protesting metal, rain lashing in like 1,000 accusing fingers. Cold air clawed at him, but Marcus twisted, tumbling backwards into the void, the world inverting in a blur of motion and wet asphalt. He hit the underbrush hard, shoulders slamming into sodden earth, breath exploding from his lungs in a ragged gasp, rolling twice before momentum spent itself in a tangle of weeds and mud. The flash drive stayed clutched in his fist, salvation's ember unquenched. Lang's curses erupted from the van, a profane torrent drowned by the storm's fury. "You little—" Brakes screamed, locking the wheels in a skid that fishtailed the vehicle against a chain-link fence, sparks flying like angry fireflies. Headlights swept the alley in erratic arcs, pinning Marcus in their glare as he scrambled to his feet, ribs aching from the SUV's earlier kiss, new bruises blooming like dark flowers. Rain plastered his hoodie to his skin, vision blurring with sheets of water and the sting of grit. But he ran, zigzagging through the underbrush toward the alley's mouth, where streetlights promised witnesses or at least cover. Footsteps pounded behind, Lang bursting from the van, pistol raised, his silhouette a thunderhead against the lightning-veined sky. The chase ignited, a primal rhythm of pursuit and evasion, thunder rumbling applause to Marcus's ragged breaths. Sirens swelled in the distance, Nicholas's beacon drawing the net tighter. But here in the storm's heart, it was just boy against betrayer, innocence clawing for daylight. Marcus vaulted a low fence, sneakers slipping on slick leaves, Emily's imagined cry spurring him onward. "Big bro, don't leave me." Lang's shout chased him, bullet casing the air with a sharp crack. Warning shot or wild miss, it didn't matter. The gap narrowed, then held, the alley forking into urban labyrinths. In that suspended sprint, Marcus dared a glance back, Lang's face a mask of unraveling rage, the diamond-clipped secret glinting in his pocket like fool's gold. Survival wasn't escape alone. It was unmasking the monster, turning victim to victor before the rain washed all traces away. Rain hammered the alley like 1,000 accusatory fists, turning the world into a blurred watercolor of grays and flickering neon. Marcus Hale staggered through the downpour, his sneakers sinking into sodden earth with each labored step, the underbrush clawing at his jeans like desperate fingers. Soaked to the bone, his hoodie clung heavy as chainmail, water streaming from his braids in rivulets that stung his eyes and mixed with the salt of unshed tears. Every shadow loomed monstrous in the storm's fury, a silhouette that could be Lang, pistol raised, vengeance etched in thunder. Distant shouts pierced the gale, Lang's curses chasing him like hounds. But Marcus pushed on, lungs burning, ribs a symphony of fire from the van's brutal ejection. His shoulder throbbed where the fall had wrenched it anew, a deep ache that radiated down his arm, but he clutched the flash drive tighter, its plastic shell a lifeline pulsing with silent signals. "Hold on," it seemed to whisper, the tracker's code weaving through the ether toward Nicholas, a digital thread pulling father to son across the city's chaotic veins. Puddles mirrored the chaos above, shattered reflections of streetlights dancing like Elena's stars, faint defiant points in the deluge. Marcus splashed through one, the cold shock jolting a memory loose, his mother on a rainy porch swing, towel drying his hair after a soccer drench, her laughter warm against the chill. "Storms pass, my brave one," she'd said, eyes crinkling with that unshakable light. "They make the sun sweeter." Now, as lightning forked the sky, her face flickered in every ripple, urging resilience from beyond the veil. Emily's birthday loomed in his mind's eye, a calendar square bleeding red from unchecked worry. Would she blow out candles alone? Nicholas pacing with a phone glued to his ear. The thought twisted like a knife, sharpening his resolve. He couldn't falter, not when their fragile family teetered on this razor's edge. Grief's old scars threatening to reopen under the weight of this nightmare. A roar shattered the rain's rhythm. Engines, multiple, slicing through the blocks like arrows loosed from the dark. Headlights pierced the gloom ahead, twin beams cutting swaths through the haze, skidding to a halt mere yards from Marcus's faltering path. Tires smoked on wet asphalt, and doors burst open in a symphony of urgency. 8 figures in black tactical vests, rain-slicked and resolute, fanning out with the precision of a well-oiled machine. Leading the charge was Agent Lara Voss, no kin to the bumbling mall guard, but a force of nature in her own right, her short-cropped hair plastered flat, comms crackling at her ear. "Marcus Hale, Federal Protection. On your knees, hands up, we've got you." Her voice barked sharp over the storm, coordinating a perimeter with clipped efficiency. "Flank left, Grant, eyes on the alley mouth. Perimeter secure in 30. Beside her, Agent Ethan Grant nodded, his broad frame a bulwark as he unholstered his sidearm, sweeping the shadows with practiced eye. The team moved like extensions of Nicholas's will, a net cast wide from the tracker's unerring ping. From the lead SUV leapt Nicholas Hale, his director's poise shattering like fine crystal under the onslaught of paternal terror. Rain plastered his wool overcoat to his frame, graying temples wild in the wind, but his eyes, those steady, case-hardened eyes, locked on Marcus with a ferocity that transcended rank. "Son." The word cut through the rain like a lifeline hurled into churning seas, raw and ragged, stripping away layers of FBI steel to reveal the father beneath. Marcus's legs buckled then, the dam of endurance crumbling as he stumbled forward, collapsing into Nicholas's outstretched arms. Strong hands enveloped him, one cradling his head, the other scanning for wounds with frantic precision, fingers probing ribs, tracing the welted wrists, assessing the shoulder's angry swell. "God, Marcus, I've got you." The tracker's footage hit my line at dawn. We mobilized the second it pinged. "You're safe now." Nicholas's voice cracked on the last word, a murmur against Marcus's sodden hair, laced with the tremor of a man who'd stared down cartels but quailed at his child's peril. Sobs racked Marcus's frame, hot and unbidden, spilling over the careful composure he'd armored himself with since Elena's fading breath. "Dad, Emily, the necklace, it's ruined. He took everything." The words tumbled out in gasps, a floodgate unleashed carrying the night's humiliations. The SUV's scalding hood, Lang's sneer, the cell's indifferent walls. Nicholas pulled him closer, his own breath hitching, the rain mingling with tears on both faces. "Shh, I know. The logs, the cams, Sophia's statements ironclad. But you activated the drive. My brave boy." Pride warred with fury in his whisper, apologies threading through like veins of gold. "I taught you to stay sharp, to code the shadows away, but I failed to shield you from this." From him, his grip tightened, a fortress against the storm, father and son swaying in the deluge like twin oaks rooted deep. But safety was a fragile bloom, shattered in an instant by the van's guttural snarl. Lang rammed the blockade at the alley's end, metal screeching as it plowed into the SUV's flank, headlights exploding in a shower of sparks. Bullets pinged off armored doors in a hail of desperation, Lang's wild shots ricocheting into the night, his silhouette a frenzy of betrayal behind the shattered windshield. "Hale, you think your daddy's badge saves you?" His roar cracked over the thunder, voice unhinged, the pistol bucking in his fist. Agents returned fire with surgical precision, suppressed pops from tactical rifles pinning the van, shattering the tires and forcing Lang to duck behind the dash, his escape devolving into a cornered beast's thrash. Nicholas whirled, shoving Marcus behind the SUV's bulk, his body a human shield as he drew his own weapon, a compact Glock, steady in hands that had steadied nations. "Stay down!" The order was iron, but his free hand squeezed Marcus's shoulder, a tether of love amid the leaden storm. Lara Voss flanked them, her vest absorbing a stray graze with a dull thud, while Ethan Grant lobbed a flashbang that bloomed blinding white against the van's side. Lang staggered out, coughing, the diamond clip tumbling from his pocket into the mud. A glittering accusation unearthed. "Drop it, Lang." "Federal custody, hands high." Lara's command boomed, her team closing the noose with zip ties and barking Miranda rights. In the chaos, headlights swept from the street beyond. Sophia Grant's sedan, hazard lights pulsing like a heartbeat. She leapt out, tablet clutched like a shield, rain streaming down her face as she thrust it toward the agents. Here the logs, the timestamps, and footage from my back cam. Lang at the evidence locker, pocketing the clip. I tailed him after them all, and knew something was rotten. Her voice trembled but held, eyes meeting Marcus's over the SUV's hood, a nod of solidarity from the woman who'd seen his light from the start. Nicholas glanced at the screen, jaw setting like granite. Ironclad. Transmit to Central, full corruption probe. The net tightened. Lang's curses fading to snarls as cuffs snapped on, his empire of shadows crumbling under the weight of witnessed truth. As the storm relented to a drizzle, patients swarmed the scene. Medics for Marcus's bruises, forensics for the van's secrets, emotional bonds forging unbreakable armor against the fray. Nicholas knelt beside his son on the asphalt, rain pooling around them like baptismal waters. "We're whole again," he murmured, pulling Marcus into an embrace that spanned losses and triumphs. Emily's text lit Nicholas's phone. "Where's Marcus?" Scared. A shared smile broke through, weary but warm. In that moment, amid sirens and settling chaos, father and son rose, unyielding, entwined, the storm's fury yielding to dawn's quiet promise. 2 weeks after the storm's fury had broken over Seattle's shadowed alleys, the community auditorium at Evergreen High swelled with a quiet electricity, its vaulted ceilings echoing the soft murmur of over 200 souls gathered in shared resolve. Sunlight streamed through tall, arched windows, gilding the wooden pews and casting long, hopeful beams across the stage, where a podium stood like a sentinel of truth. Banners draped the walls, justice illuminates, flanked by posters of diverse faces, young and old, etched with stories of resilience. The air hummed with anticipation, laced with the faint scent of fresh coffee from the lobby, and the subtle rustle of programs being unfolded. For Marcus Hale, stepping onto that stage felt like emerging from a long, subterranean tunnel into light that both warmed and pierced. At 16, the bruises on his body had faded to faint yellow echoes, but the deeper marks, the ones etched into his spirit, lingered like half-healed scars, tender under the lightest touch. He adjusted the collar of his crisp button-down shirt, the fabric still stiff from its first wash, and glanced down at Emily, whose small hand slipped into his with a squeeze that spoke volumes. 13 now. She wore the repaired silver starburst necklace around her neck, its chain mended by Aja Weller's careful hands, the pendant resting against her collarbone like a badge of survival. The birthday they'd salvaged had been bittersweet. Candles lit in the hospital waiting room, cake shared with Nicholas under fluorescent hums, but Emily's eyes sparkled undimmed, her braids adorned with star-shaped clips, a quiet defiance in her grin. "You got this, big bro," she whispered, her voice a thread of normalcy weaving through the weight. Nicholas Hale stood sentinel, at Marcus's other side, his FBI badge pinned to his lapel like a talisman of earned authority, the lines of exhaustion around his eyes softened by a pride that bordered on reverence. The deputy director, who commanded boardrooms and briefings with unyielding precision, now deferred the spotlight, his hand resting lightly on Marcus's shoulder, a gesture both protective and yielding. The family trio formed a tableau of quiet strength, a unit reforged in fire, their presence alone drawing nods and murmurs from the crowd. Parents who'd watched the viral chase footage on loop, activists who'd rallied under Dubber Hail Rising, teens clutching phones with Marcus's story bookmarked like a modern folktale. The applause crested as Sergeant Harlan Brooks took the podium first, his once indifferent face now etched with humility, the clipboard traded for a stack of reform outlines. Brooks, a veteran of 20 years whose routine had blinded him to the precinct's rot, cleared his throat, voice steady, but laced with the gravel of accountability. What happened to Marcus wasn't isolated. It was a failure of trust, a crack in the foundation we all rely on. He gestured to the slides projecting behind him, flowcharts of new protocols, timelines for implementation. Starting today, Central Precinct commits to mandatory integrity audits every quarter, cross-checked by civilian overseers. Youth advisory councils, led by voices like Marcus's, will shape our training. And de-escalation simulations, drawn straight from his ordeal, will be core curriculum. Hands visible, stories heard. Before cuffs click, nods rippled through the room, a collective exhale of progress. As Brooks stepped aside for the next witness, Officer Kyle Morrow approached next. His uniform pressed, but his posture humbled, the weight of his choice to speak out bowing his shoulders. The man who'd slipped the flash drive through a cell slot now faced the room unflinching, his testimony a measured torrent. Timelines of Lang's fencing ops, dates of pilfered evidence, the diamond clips trail leading to a network of shadowed dealers. I looked the other way too long, Morrow admitted, voice cracking on the edge of sincerity. But Marcus showed us what real courage looks like. Derek Lang faces federal charges, corruption, attempted kidnapping, and assault under color of law. And it doesn't stop there. The probes uncovered a ring, badges bought and sold like yesterday's news. Gasps mingled with applause, the crowd's energy shifting from reflection to reckoning, phones capturing every word for the feeds that had amplified this moment nationwide. Then it was Marcus's turn. He stepped forward, Emily's hand lingering in his until the last possible second, Nicholas's nod a silent bolstering. The microphone hummed to life, and Marcus drew a breath, the auditorium falling into a hush so profound it amplified the faint tremor in his voice. 2 weeks ago, I was just a brother buying a necklace, a star for my sister's birthday, a light for the dark spots Mom left when she went. His fingers brushed the pendant at Emily's throat, a shared anchor. But I became a suspect, a shadow in a hoodie, hands up, because that's what survival taught me. Yes, sir. Keep still. It wasn't about me, though. It was about every kid who walks these streets with heavy hearts and dreams tucked away like contraband. Every black boy reciting mantras in the mirror. Every family bracing for the knock that steals more than time. Tears glistened in Nicholas's eyes, unashamed tracks down his cheeks, pride mingling with the sorrow of a father who'd pieced together too many such stories in sterile files. Marcus pressed on, voice gaining steel. For Emily, who deserves stars without storms. For Mom, who taught us from ashes we rise. This isn't the end, it's the spark. Demand the audits. Join the councils. Because innocence isn't a crime. It's the foundation we rebuild together. The room erupted then, applause thundering like the storm that had birthed this reckoning, cheers swelling into chants of unity. Marcus turned, pulling Emily into a hug, her arms wrapping tight around his waist, while Nicholas enveloped them both, the family a fierce knot amid the wave of affirmation. Strangers surged forward, handshakes, hugs, whispers of thank you, as viral clips of the speech trended, hashtags blooming like wildflowers, sparking dialogues in living rooms and lecture halls across the country. Months unfurled like pages in a well-worn book, carrying Marcus to Stanford's sun-dappled campus, where autumn leaves crunched underfoot and lecture halls buzzed with the hum of fresh beginnings. He unpacked in a dorm room overlooking eucalyptus groves, the flash drive now a digital archive on his laptop. Videos of Emily's laughter, code from Dad's lessons, footage of Lang's downfall, a testament digitized, shared in ethics seminars that drew crowds. The trial had exposed the ring in stark relief. 6 officers indicted, a fence network dismantled, headlines praising the Hail Cascade as a blueprint for reform. Morrow redeemed led youth trainings. Brooks's counsels echoed with teen voices, de-escalation saving stories yet untold. In quiet moments, when Silicon Valley's glow faded to twilight, Marcus and Nicholas shared Elena's favorite verse over video calls, her handwriting preserved in a journal's faded ink. From ashes, we rise, not unscathed but unbreakable. Father and son would pause, the words a bridge across miles, love's unyielding forge, turning victims into victors. Emily's texts pinged mid-conversation. Miss you, but stars are brighter here. Drawing smiles that chased old shadows. No darkness endured forever. In the Hale legacy, light prevailed, a thrilling testament that one boy's stand could ripple into a nation's awakening, ensuring the stars Elena loved shone for all.